let's talk a little bit about the difference between life and life story. Everyone seems to be seeking so much to improve their life story. But I feel what we really seek, what we're really looking for, is a deeper shift. A deeper, more qualitative shift. I would consider all of the changes within the life story, they're more quantitative changes, right? Redecoration of form, rearrangement of form in order to paint a desired picture. But somehow we know that in and of itself, even though it can be very, very beautiful and amazing, it's not going to satisfy us. And why is it not going to satisfy us? Well, it's not going to satisfy us because life is not the same as life story. And no matter how amazing a life story is, and I want your life story to be amazing, I pray for your life story to be amazing. No matter how amazing a life story is, it is going to remain a story. In other words, it's not going to fulfill the requirements of having found something real. So no matter how beautiful this life story, we somehow know it's not going to be satisfying in its entirety. Because even though we may have the life story we desire, we may not necessarily have access to the actual life underneath. We may be lost in the story without having access to the life, the actual essence of life in which that story can even take place. So this qualitative shift is one that we actually truly desire. What we truly desire, no matter what we want in the exterior, no matter what we want in form, what we truly want is to know life. Not to have knowledge of life conceptually in one way or another, but to know the essence of life, to know life directly, to know life itself. That's what we really want. And to find life directly, or get to know, get to remember life directly, we must become capable of dropping our story, at least for a moment, so that our life story is not mistaken for our life. This is what so often happens. Everyone mistakes their life story for their life, but it's not their life, it's their life story. And so we tend to build these constructs, these enormously elaborate life stories, which in essence do nothing other than generate more and more complexity and separation from the actual essence of life, in which they are even possible to arise. And the funny thing is, the more we're in touch with the essence of life, the more beautiful of a life story we're generally able to paint or to tell. Because if we're no longer entangled in that story, if we're no longer like contracted and holding on to that story and trying so hard to make it go this way or that way, we become more free. The energy is more free, less contracted and invested, becomes more relaxed, and more energy is free and available to actually follow inspiration spontaneously and pick up the cues that lead to the generation of a beautiful life story. How can you practice leaving more space between life story and life? How can you practice marinating a little bit more in life itself and sort of leaving the story out for a moment, or letting the story go to the background for a moment? Well, one thing you can always do is spontaneously and sporadically throughout the day, always take a moment to sort of snap out of the story. Just practice this 10, 20 times a day. Just snap out of the story spontaneously, without the idea of like setting the timer and doing all of this mechanical stuff to, be a really, really good spiritual practitioner. But just set the intention to spontaneously snap out of it every once in a while. Couple of times an hour, ideally speaking. And that will do something. That will generate some sort of space. If you do it earnestly, it'll also help you understand the pattern much more. It'll help you understand the rhythms and patterns into which you get so sucked in, into which you get within which you get lost. You begin to understand those more and be more aware of those. And simultaneously, you'll begin to sense a little bit more of that freedom that's beyond it. That all of this pattern simply arises within that freedom. Your energy becomes more and more available. You become more and more online in that sense. You notice how much you've been disconnected from the actual flow of life. How much you've been asleep, in a sense. And that little opening towards life will begin to work its way through your system in that sense. And the more you practice, the more it'll conform body-mind to that stream of life. And your life will more and more become an expression of alignment to that life, rather than an expression of being dissociated from that stream of life.